It's been a disaster. And it's been a disaster entirely because of me.
Welcome to Penmarric, Mrs. Castallack. May I say, ma'am, on behalf of all of us here, that we wish you health, happiness, and the best of lives here in this house.
You're very kind. Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Madeline.
Oh, our pleasure, sir. Our pleasure indeed. We've missed you, that we have.
You're becoming quite the diplomat.
I try to be, sir. I try to be.
Thank you for the flowers. They're quite beautiful. Thank you, Madeline.
I wouldn't want cook to get the wrong idea. The food was excellent. But, well, Mrs. Castallack and I have had rather a lot of rich food recently.
I quite understand, sir. Will you be requiring anything else, ma'am?
No, thank you.
Sir?
No, thank you. Oh, and Madeline, you've all worked very hard to make the house welcoming. I think you might stand everyone down now until tomorrow morning.
Are you sure, sir?
Quite.
Well, thank you very much indeed, sir.
Well, you think you're going to like it here?
I'm sure I shall when I get used to it. The staff seem very friendly.
Well, I think that after Alice Penmarric, they're glad to know where they are. A downright regular mistress of Penmarric is something they can understand.
I married you because I loved you. And I still love you. I don't want the past few weeks to spoil the happiness that we both deserve. We've all the time in the world so long as we're gentle, patient with one another.
I've been incompetent and valueless.
No.
Yes. What I should have told you, what I meant to tell you was that until our honeymoon, I'd had no experience whatsoever of women, with women. There never seems to have been the time or the opportunity. But I married you, knowing full well what the obligations of marriage entail. And I shan't let you down, Helena. I promise you.
And another pint of cider for my friend, that Gannet over there.
Do Gannets drink cider?
South African ones do.
He mightn't be much of a miner. that you've got the makings of a fair old ornithologist.
Yes, and a fully paid-up alcoholic. Cheers.
Cheers.
Ah.
We've been opening up the shaft next to King Wallow shortly. Coming down and have a look, Steve.
Try and keep me away from it.
There was a time when you wouldn't have said that in such an hurry. And why are you honouring us with your presence tonight? I thought you would be chasing after Rebecca. Or is it Felicity Cornforth now?
You can have too much of a good thing, you know. What the devil?
Evening, Ira.
What on earth are you doing here?
Just checking up on my investments. How are you? Davy, nice to see
That'll be a mild and bitter for Mr. Castallack, please, Ira.
A mild and bitter. Ira, wheel out the whiskey. We're in for some serious drinking. What time is it?
8:30. What are we going to do? What are we going to do?
Your GP assures me that physically you're as healthy a specimen as he's encountered.
I should hope so.
And you have every confidence in him, in Dr. Salter.
He delivered me. He's looked after me for 30 years. Of course I trust him.
Forgive me, but I'd like to get this clear at the outset. Was it Dr. Salter who suggested that the only way of overcoming your problem was to consult someone like me?
Does it matter? The decision was reached. Here I am.
It matters a very great deal, Mr. Castallack. Because if you come to me with marked reluctance, quite convinced in your own mind this is all a waste of time, then I'm taking your money for nothing.
Yes, well, for myself I don't greatly care, but I do care about my wife. This block, whatever you care to call it, is putting her in an invidious position.
So that you care enough about your wife's happiness to want this block removed.
Madeline, how pretty it all is now.
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Castallack's been working very hard on the whole house.
And what a difference she's made. And how are you, anyway, apart from being very efficient?
Very well, thank you, ma'am. Getting married next month.
Married? You? My son's kept very quiet about it.
Oh, we've kept it quiet, ma'am. My fiancé and me.
Oh, I can't believe it. Madeline's little boy, married.
I'm so sorry I kept you waiting.
Nonsense. Just been admiring the room.
Won't you sit down?
Sit over there where I can feel the sun. This was always my favourite window.
I know, I love this corner too.
How clever you've been, Eleanor. Philip must be really proud of you.
Oh, I think he's quite pleased, you know.
And you're happy here. Really, truly happy.
So long as Philip's happy, I'm happy.
So what is he doing in London, for heaven's sake?
Oh, he and Adrian have some meetings about your husband's monograph on Stephen and Matilda. They're talking to a publisher, I believe.
Oh, publisher. If you're not too old to take some advice, Eleanor, see to it that when Philip has these London jaunts in future, he takes you with him.
These men, you know what they're like. Shall we have tea?
So, why did it go wrong on your honeymoon?
I think because the hotel we stayed in brought back all the wrong memories. When I was a boy, 9 or 10 years old, my parents had been estranged for some time. One horrific night, when my mother and I were staying at Brighton, we saw my father, his mistress, and his illegitimate sons enjoying a meal at the same hotel. You can imagine how. Later that night, I heard my father and mother have the most appalling row, bedroom suite in the hotel. It ended with my father raping my mother. And I heard it all. I was too perplexed and too frightened to do anything about it. And I suppose I was too stupid to acknowledge the effect that that might have on the first night of our honeymoon.
The associations were too much for you.
Well, I bolted. I got to the bathroom, vomited. And after that, it was hopeless. Hopeless.
Did you attempt intimacy thereafter?
A couple of times. Disastrous.
Mr. Castallack, have you had any satisfactory relationship with a woman before or since your marriage?
What the hell's that supposed to mean?
You've come to me for help. I didn't solicit your custom.
Yes, I'm sorry. I bought the services of a girl in Torquay during our honeymoon.
Would it be accurate to say that on every occasion when you've attempted to make love to your wife, and during that one occasion with the Torquay prostitute, the memory of that traumatic scene between your father and mother effectively intervened?
The first time with Helena, certainly. The memories, they swamped everything. Afterwards, well, it's difficult to know, but I think it was probably after my failures in bed that I remembered that awful night again. Well, what do you think?
I'm a very long way from making any sort of informed opinion. This is not going to be a fast process like taking a pill to get rid of a headache.
And these improvements are vital.
Well, if we want Garth to show profit next year, and the year after that.
How much will your modifications cost?
Quite a lot. At least 21,000.
That's a fortune.
Yes, I'm afraid it is.
Of that, how much can you and your colleagues raise?
Well, optimistically, about 6,000.
I can match you at 6, but no more than that.
Darling, it's still a gamble.
You're prepared to gamble, aren't you?
Naturally.
For that investment, what would I receive immediately?
A directorship and a 10% interest in the mine.
On the face of it, very generous.
We have no choice except to be generous. We need ready cash now.
If I were to guarantee through a promissory note a further 6,000 next year, and a further 6,000 the following year, would you be prepared to raise my interest in the mine to 20%?
You believe in getting your feet under the table, don't you?
It would give me some kind of incentive, some kind of an interest, wouldn't it?
Day by day, I find more to admire in you.
Oh, really?
You took me for better or for worse. So far, you've had precious little but the worse.
Only because I know it'll get better. So, it's a deal, Mr. Castallack?
Mrs. Castallack, it is.
Felicity? Felicity, how long have I been calling on you?
Oh, not more than 5 months. That's quite long enough to provoke comment from your father, the neighbours and the staff.
You do have a bit of a reputation as a lady killer, old soldier.
Do you know something? I think you're the only female I've ever met whose company I utterly enjoy.
Steady the buff. Could you be leading up to a proposition of interest to us both?
One for the road?
I should damn well hope so.
Whoa. Now look, my dear old horse fancier. As you know, I am absolutely penniless, but I do have expectations.
And I know all about those expectations of yours, dear heart.
Just use the snaffle a moment, would you? After all, I am heir to Penmarric.
You were, sweetness, until Philip married the lovely Helena.
Philip isn't interested in Helena or children or anything except Sen and Garth, and he is riding for a fall.
How manly and provocative you are.
Will you just shut up a moment? Now, look, I think I ought to tell you that Philip did give me £500 to build a house on Penmarric land, but, well, you know what I'm like. I played the stock exchange with that money and I lost it. So, here I am. A penniless and quite unscrupulous adventurer. 5 years younger than you and as randy as a goat. And I'm asking you to marry me.
But what could be nicer? Or more appropriate? I'm sick to death of hearing poor old Felicity's as plain as the back of a bus and well and truly on the shelf. So I wouldn't mind marrying you just to get a spot of peace. No, I mean it. Just so long as Rebecca wouldn't be a problem, old dear.
Do you know something? It pays to be honest once in a while.
We aren't in love with one another, of course. But then I'm not such a ninny as to expect that true love will come along on a white horse and sweep me off to the altar. I mean, look at me. And I don't care that you want to marry me for my money. At least you've admitted it. So why don't you jolly well go ahead?
Please. Dr. Ormond, this is my what, 6th visit? I think by now I'm entitled to some plain talking.
You mean this is the moment when I should be screaming Eureka?
You know every detail of my relationship with Helena. You know all about my parents and their problems. You know of my obsession with the mine. I think in return I'm entitled to know a little from you.
Let me reassure you on one score at least. Despite your reluctance to see me, you've become probably my most forthcoming patient. I couldn't have wished for more intelligent cooperation.
Well then?
Well then. You're aware by now it is not the object of the psychiatrist to provide answers for his patient. It's the patient's object, through communication with his analyst, to come up with answers for himself. By your own admission, you're still prepared to put the blame for your problem down to the fact that when you were a child, you heard your father rape your mother.
So?
Now you're asking for my interpretation. All right. I don't underestimate the importance of that episode. I believe it's just a symptom of a far more fundamental maladjustment. Consider it from this point of view. You have a command built into your mind which says, do not have sexual relations with a woman. You may not be aware of it, but it certainly exists, and it sends out signals you're unable to ignore. You were unable to ignore them the first night of your marriage, and you've been unable to ignore them ever since.
Yes, but for God's sake, we reached that conclusion during our very first interview.
Did we? Now, think before you reply, I urge you.
Perhaps not.
Are you prepared to answer without demur a very few questions, simple questions?
Of course.
Do you love your wife?
No.
Do you really want to be married?
No.
Are you interested in becoming a father?
Except insofar as I want an heir. No.
Do you enjoy your current lifestyle as Master of Penmarric?
By God, I do not.
Well done. Then I think it's unnecessary for us to meet again. I'd like to talk off the record for a moment. You won't be charged this homily, I promise you.
Go ahead.
You've come a very long way on the road to self-realization. I've no doubt now that you'll be able to discover the signposts for yourself without my help.
Oh, yes.
You're in a dilemma that won't last forever. In the meantime, I believe that for a variety of reasons you married your wife for all the wrong reasons. By continuing your way of life, you're perpetrating a grave moral wrong on an innocent woman. Your predicament embraces your wife. And I urge you to discover for yourself the roots of that predicament as swiftly as possible. Do you acknowledge the truth of what I've said?
How long will Uncle Philip be, Grandmama? He said he'd be here at 9.
Then there's still 10 minutes to go. You're so impatient, young man. That's very good.
Not very. I've lost some of the cross members.
You like building things, don't you?
I'm going to be an engineer when I grow up, like Mr. Trevor's. He says when you're an engineer, you can go all around the world building useful things like bridges and things like that.
Oh, what does your mother say about that?
She doesn't mind. She still thinks I want to be an engine driver. I wouldn't mind being an engineer and an engine driver, actually.
You've got to be a very busy man, then.
Though I'd quite like to come down here and help Uncle Philip run Sen and Gar.
Oh, would you now?
He says if I show promise, he might just take me on.
If you have any sense at all, Esmond, you'll keep well away from mines.
But why? I like them. At least I like Sen and Gar.
You ready, Esmond?
Yes!
Now then, it's fine stacked up.
But I thought you said you were going to help me.
Nonsense. If you're big enough to ride him, you're big enough to tack him up. Now, come on, up with you, quick. We've a lot to see today.
5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes.
3. Morning, Mama. So, how are things?
I worry about that boy. Mariana's giving evidence today in another wretched divorce case.
Why, with a child like him, she has to go racketing around with such unsavory people.
You'll soon be old enough to realise the kind of life she's leading.
Well, if things get really sticky, I'm perfectly happy to have him at Penmarric.
No doubt you would. What about Eleanor?
Why should she object? He's a delightful boy.
She won't want you dividing your affections when you have a child of your own.
Give us time, for heaven's sake. We've only been married a year.
It's almost midnight. What are you doing here?
I could ask the same of you.
You're here night after night. Is it essential?
Would I be here if it wasn't?
What's happened between you and your wife?
What?
What's gone wrong with your marriage? None of my business, of course.
I don't want anyone else to know.
Sure. Stands to reason.
should never have got married in the first place.
I warned you, didn't I? I told you what happened to my marriage.
Yes, you told me.
Seems to me that some people need to get married and other people don't. You're like me. You're not the marrying kind. You should have listened to me.
And what would you have advised?
I'll stay a bachelor.
Being a bachelor isn't everyone's idea of fun.
Well, it's fun to be had. You know where to look.
I don't want to spend my spare time picking up tarts.
Okay, forget it.
Yes, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't enjoy a night out. Why don't we have supper together sometime in St. Ives next week?
Fine by me.
Oh, you're still up.
You're very late.
Quite late, yes.
Your mother called this afternoon.
That's nice. Oh, do you want some?
We've had dinner together twice in the last fortnight. How long is this sort of thing going to go on?
I'll be in tomorrow evening. We have guests, haven't we?
That's not what I mean.
No. Would you prefer a divorce?
Did you ever love me?
Oh, it hasn't worked out, and I'm sorry. If you want to leave me, I'm prepared to give grounds.
You've become so callous, Philip.
Had a raw deal, I admit that. And I'm offering you a clean way out of this mess. Why don't you take it?
If only you could think of somebody else but yourself.
Anyway, see you tomorrow, right? Yeah. All right, guys.
Where the hell have you been?
In the pub with friends.
You said you'd been out hours ago. It's almost 1 o'clock.
Yes, well, they know me, don't they?
And who was that pipsqueak you were talking to all night?
What's the matter, Sonny? Jealous?
For God's sake.
I'm sorry if you felt left out of it. I just wanted to show you, that's all.
Show me what?
The truth, of course. What else?
Hello, he cried.
Hello. Isn't he awful?
Awful, sensational. I have pulled it off at last.
He's actually popped the question.
But I thought that you would have...
Oh, no, not to me, do you see? I'm a foregone conclusion. No, to Daddy, last night.
Looked at me as if I were absolutely insane and then said nothing for fully half an hour.
Nonsense.
Then he said, well, if that's the way it's got to be, I suppose we'd better have a drink on it, hadn't we?
And we did. Not one, but dozens. Daddy got quite squiffy, he really did.
Yes, and we decided to carry on the celebrations this morning, so there. I'm sure Medlin can find some champagne somewhere, can't he?
Oh, I'm sure he can. So, when's it to be, the happy day?
Very soon.
Quite soon.
Beast!
Well, very soon.
Skirter.
Skirt?
That's a case definitely of giving tongue when you should be feathering it.
No more about that.
Well, why don't we go to Calais? We've never been abroad before. Why not Calais for the weekend? Well, we can...
Hello, Bob.
Afternoon, Mrs. Castallack. How are you keeping then?
Quite well, thank you.
Well, is this mended?
Oh, thank you. Did I hear you say you were thinking of going to France?
That's right. There's a couple of engineers we want to talk to. They have some ideas we might use at Castallack.
Oh, you'll be taking Eleanor, I expect.
Oh, I don't think so. Not terribly interested in the finer details of mining. Why should she be? Going to offer us a cup of tea?
Yes, if you want.
Not if it's any bother, Mrs.
No
Castallack.
bother. You better sit down, hadn't you?
No, that's plenty. It's tucking. So I better get cleaned up and get back to the office. Fletcher's due any minute now to sort out the timber problem, and I don't want to keep him waiting. I'll see you later.
Yeah, at the pub.
7 o'clock?
On the dot. If I'm late, get me a pint of cider.
I don't know.
Yes, the belt 6.
What?
6, damn you!
Right. Come on, come on.
Is it working?
Yes. Answer. Answer. Answer, Daniel.
Look, Philip. Philip! Philip?
The tremor ruptured the dividing wall. King Wallows flooded Garth.
Mr. Castallack. I don't know if I did right to open.
You did right, Ira.
What's it to be then, sir?
A pint of cider. A whiskey, please. The bottle. The bottle, Ira. And 2 glasses. To them all. All 127 of them. Am I to drink on my own?
You know I never drink during the day.
But this is not just another day.
What are you going to do?
The mine's finished. To drain the flooded shafts and rebuild would cost the kind of money I could never hope to find. Helena's agreed to sink the rest of her capital into a restoration attempt, but, well, that would only be a fraction of the entire amount needed. So, Garth's dead. The life of the village is over. It would have been better for me if I could have gone down with the rest of them.
How long are you going to go on wringing your hands because you're lucky enough to be alive?
I beg your pardon.
You have your health, your youth, your wife, your certain income. What about the 88 widows and all the fatherless children of Garth? What have they got?
Do you think I hadn't thought of anything else? What sort of a man do you take me for?
I think you're wallowing in self-pity. Philip, I know you've been hurt terribly. Of course your grief's real. But grief isn't going to help them.
I've talked to the Penmarric trustees. They're prepared to advance £1,000. I shall, of course, arrange for it to be distributed to the dependents of the victims. Though God knows...
It's a start and a good one. But how long can even £1,000 feed and clothe upwards of, 250 people?
A month, at best. Oh, I don't know. I just don't know.
But I think I do.
I'm afraid to inform you, old fellow, Daddy is getting just the whimsiest bit impatient.
Impatient? What? For the call from that one great landowner in the sky?
Don't be daft. Impatient, I mean, for the announcement of our wedding date.
Oh.
Simpleton. This, what you see, Daddy keeps grumbling on about that young man of yours coming round here, eating me best food, drinking me best wine, never a word nor sign, and making good his engagement promises.
Yeah, I thought it could only be a matter of time till the old boy rumbled me.
Oh, he's rumbled you all right. Don't you worry your pretty little head about that. But he does have the trump card, my sly old darling. He could, and he just might, withhold my dowry until he sees a wedding date very close indeed on our particular horizon.
An engagement's one thing, but marriage is quite another. You swore to me that the engagement was merely a temporary measure so that you could get Felicity to help you over your dreary money problems. That you had no intention of taking it seriously.
That's what I thought. That's what I meant. The old boy's taken it very seriously. Darling, he has practically threatened me with a breach of promise action unless I marry Felicity by October. So what could I do? I could end up behind bars with my life ruined and no chance of seeing you again for years. So what could I do?
It's all so horrible. If he's like that now, what will he be like after the marriage? You won't be able to leave Carnforth Hall without his permission. What'll happen to us then?
Look, I have told you over and over that neither Felicity nor I are interested in the physical side of the marriage, but we both need Sir Jay's money. And marriage is the only way we're going to get it.
But what about the honeymoon? And living together afterwards?
Rebecca, it's a business arrangement only. No hanky-panky. Separate rooms. And when the old boy finally dies, we get the estate and the money, divide it up nicely, and then Felicity sues me for divorce on grounds of non-consummation. See, it's all worked out. I promise you.
Oh, Janna.
Hello, Mama. Still coming in.
It's really been quite incredible. This morning, money from Canada, France, Belgium, America, and Britain, of course.
Well, how much have we had in now, do you reckon?
It must be well over £7,000.
People have been quite extraordinarily generous. It's all thanks to you, you know.
Nonsense. You did the speeches, the publicity, the organisation.
And you gave me the jolt I needed. I'd still be up at Penmarric in alcoholic despair if you hadn't shivered me off. No, it's true. I am tired. God, I'm tired. Bone weary.
You need a break. You ought to get away. The pair of you. Eleanor's been alone a lot over the past few months, and you haven't had a proper holiday since your honeymoon.
Don't want a holiday. I want a change. But I don't want a holiday.
Now, that doesn't make sense, and I think you owe something to Eleanor.
Helena manages very well indeed.
She needs a child. You both do.
Is that all you ever think about? Children? Didn't you get enough of all that with Father and his zeal for procreation?
Hello, soldier. Of course, I know it's against the rules, but I feel a girl should really try her best on her wedding night, don't you?
There is, of course, the matter of the single bed.
Yes, there is, isn't there? That was perfectly delightful. I wouldn't like to think I'd missed out on something. Don't worry about the annulment, Jan, darling. I'm sure we can rustle up a little adultery if we're hard-pressed for legal separation later.
Mrs. Castallack, you are all right.
That's nice.
I'm wondering how Alice is going to take to my living under her roof.
We have our own bijou wing, darling. Why should we worry?
No, I don't like Alice. She doesn't like me. I think she could cause trouble.
Well, she knows all about you and Rebecca, naturally. When she taxed me with it, I told her it was all old hat and to mind her own ruddy business and that sort of thing.
Has she told your father?
Well, if she has, he's kept it very much to himself, which isn't a bit like Daddy.
Oh. All the same, I would feel a damn sight more comfortable if we were living in Penmarric.
Jan, sweetest, it's very nice for you and all that to think of yourself as heir to Penmarric. But honestly, what sort of hope have you of ever inheriting it? Philip is scarcely 10 years older than you are. He's fit and he's attractive and he has a pretty stunning wife. Of course, they're going to have children quite soon, and where will my poor darling be then in the inheritance order?
Let me tell you a thing or two about Philip. And for his sake, I want you to promise me never to repeat this to anyone at all.
Cross my heart and hope to die.
Seriously.
Seriously?
Philip is never going to have a son and heir.
How can you possibly know that?
Because he's a homosexual.
Jan. Honestly, what a perfectly preposterous thing to say.
I was never more serious in my life. During the past year, he had a relationship with Alan Trevose. I know because I saw them together.
Philip? And that uncouth Trevose? It can't be possible. You must be mistaken.
No, I'm certain. And when Alan died with arrest at Senengarth, I thought for a long time Philip was going to kill himself too. Mamma got him over the worst of it. He still has a death wish about him. A very strong death wish.
Genevieve, thanks for being so punctual. Well, help yourself to a drink.
Thank you. Do you?
I'm on the way. Temporarily, at least. I've been making plans for the future.
Oh, yes?
I've decided to leave Penmarric.
You've what?
There's nothing to keep me here.
Yes, but what will you do?
I'm going to Canada. There's a tin mine in the Rockies that I'm interested in. If I like it and they like me, I'll stay on.
For good?
I'm giving myself 3 years.
Yes, but even so. Well, what's Mother going to say, for heaven's sake?
Well, you should know perfectly well that Mamma's not going to have hysterics because I intend to go abroad for 3 years. Oh, and let me say that I'm relying on you to call on her at least once a week while I'm away. Will you promise me you'll do that and look after her properly?
Yes, yes, of course.
There's another matter concerning Mamma that I think you should know about. Adrian will be replacing old Barnwell as rector of Zillan.
Oh, sure.
The least we can do is respect him. But if there should be any awkwardness between Mamma and him, I shall expect you to mediate. Now, I've made up my mind that no one in the family except Mamma shall have any part in running Penmarric while I'm away. Smithson's doing well here. He can look after the practical details. He's a tried professional.
Yes, but sure.
For your own sake, it's better this way.
Are you telling me I'm not to set foot in Penmarric while you're abroad? Suppose Smithson steps out of line. Who's going to vet the accounts? You surely can't expect Helena to do that.
Helena's going back to Zillan. I shall retain a skeleton staff here, and Mother and Michael Vincent will have power of attorney and keep an eye on the accounts. Vincent will be sending Simon Peter Roslin over once a month to check on the estate.
For God's sake!
Vincent tells me he's very efficient. That's all I require.
It seems pretty hard, you know, that an interloper like Simon Peter Roslin may come and go here as he pleases, while I am forbidden to enter the estate for 3 bloody years.
Janny, let's get things straight, shall we? Things have changed radically since your marriage. You have Felicity. You have access to a comfortable allowance. You have a wing at Carnforth. You have your little motor cars. And if you wait long enough, you'll have the entire Carnforth fortune to call your own. You're sitting pretty. And I congratulate you on your clever thinking. It makes life easier for me as well, because now I know that you don't need either Penmarric or my money if I should happen to die before you do. I've made a will. I'm leaving everything to Rebecca's boy.
I see. Well, Rebecca and Jonas will be very pleased.
Jonas has nothing but the name Castallack. I shall pay for his education and bring him up to know every inch of the estate he'll administer when I'm gone. Yes, well, I felt I should tell you before I told anyone else, since after Jonas, you're the person most concerned.
Thank you so much.
I shall tell Rebecca all this tomorrow and give me a chance to see Jonas again. I hardly know the child. Frankly, I'd far rather have Esmond as my heir, but, well, as you know, he was excluded under the terms of Father's will.
So you've given up any hope of having a son of your own? Well, I'm very sorry to hear that, Philip.
The marriage is a failure. I'm better off by myself. You look as if you could do with a refill.
No, thank you. Morning, Mrs. Castallack.
And good morning to you, old soldier. Up and about early, aren't we?
Is it early? 10:30.
It's early for you, my lad.
Yes. Have a drink and listen.
You must be up to something. Aha. Well, too early in the morning not to be drinking gin and French.
I want to talk to you about Penmarric.
Oh, crikey, how you surprised
Felicity,
me.
I am serious. I love that place more than Philip ever will. I love each ugly grey stone and every square foot of Cornish earth on which it's built, and I am not going to let it be destroyed by thieves and incompetents.
Thieves?
Well, Smithson, of course. He's been alienating the workers, upping their rents. My God, it's like something out of a penny dreadful. I'm not going to let it go on.
Clearly you have a cunning little reason or two.
I intend to move in there and damn the consequences. Will you come with me? After all, we are man and wife, nominally at least.
But you're forbidden to enter the place. Philip made that clear. And if you do decide to flout him and get your shoulder to the wheel at long last, what the hell would I do all day long at Penmarric? We're bringing on Prince beautifully now, and I expect to start eventing him within a month or two. And, Janna, I do happen to enjoy living at Cornwall. Oh, good. Ooh. But if that great big bed at Penmarric gets too cold for comfort, well, you know where to find old Felicity.
You are adorable.
There's a boy, there's a baby.
You have no right to be living at Penmarric.
Philip wants Penmarric to be run properly, and is it...
Absolutely no concern of yours.
More mine than yours, Vincent. Penmaric's Castallack property, not yours. And the idea of appointing a wretched little upstart like Simon Peter Roslin...
Simon Peter Roslin is capable. And if Philip had thought you capable of managing the estate in his absence, he'd have appointed you sole guardian. He has no faith in you. You know it and I know it, so I must ask you once again not to set foot in Penmarric until he returns.
My mother is one of the guardians. I know it and you know it. And how is she to visit the estate unless I take her?
To be chauffeur to your mother is one thing, but to play the heir presumptive is quite another. You've had well over a year to accept that Philip made Jonas his heir and not you.
Oh, yes, but that doesn't stop me from wanting to see the estate administered correctly. Did you know that Smithson has used Penmarric timber, Penmarric labour, Penmarric money, and Penmarric land to build a house for himself that's going to be the eyesore of the county? Did you?
Before Philip left, he gave express instructions that Smithson could build himself a house with grounds extending to 5 acres on the estate.
Oh, yes, but not there. Not on the Tregarron Peninsula. Can you imagine a bungalow there? A monstrosity vulgarising the whole of the coastline? You spend far too much time in this office and not enough on Penmarric land.
I shall raise the matter with Philip.
Oh, yes, but you evidently knew nothing of this until I told you. That's how far away you are.
But that gives you no right to meddle with the internal affairs of the estate. Yes, Roslin, what is it?
Gentlemen, the clerks can hear every word.
I shall investigate these allegations of yours. But that in no way affects my determination that you should quit Penmarric now, before I enter restraint proceedings against you.
Mr. Vincent, Ma'am.
Oh, thank you, Etty.
Morning, Janna.
How are you, Michael?
Oh, I'm well enough. How's this new little creature of yours settling in? Hetty?
She's an affectionate, hard-working girl. I couldn't ask for better. Sit down, Michael. Philip insisted, before he left, that I should have someone living in. I didn't like the idea at all, not after Griselda, but Etty's been a real find.
Oh, good. That's good.
Well then, out with it. What's wrong?
I beg your pardon?
Oh, I know you well enough by now, Michael. When you look as if you've just taken a Gregory powder, you have bad news.
Must be obvious why I've called. Genevieve.
What is the matter this time?
Over the past 3 weeks, Genevieve has given 3 dinner parties, 5 luncheon parties, a wine bill for 130, food bill for 110, flower arrangements, 60 guineas. And a dozen cases of champagne at a price I don't want to think about. And Janna, it's not his money to spend. I shall have to report this irresponsible behaviour to Philip.
He's impetuous, but he means for the best. He's genuinely worried about the estate management.
Morning, Truant.
Morning, Mr. John.
Something up?
Nope.
No.
Oh, nothing's going right. Nothing. The Smithson, that's who it is.
What, is it because he's still new, or he doesn't come from round here, or is he just too good at his job?
Oh, he's not fair. Takes no account of people's problems.
What sort of problems?
Well, there's that business with Mrs. Logan's cottage. That roof of hers needs repairing bad. Well, you know what her rheumatism's like when the rain sets in. Well, Smithson won't have it done because she's 3 months back with her rent.
Well, part of Smithson's job is making sure the rent comes in on time. Yeah. On the other hand, I see no reason in Granny Logan's case where he shouldn't make some kind of exception, turn a blind eye. Any other sort of problems?
No, that's just a start. I could fill a book with complaints. We're all guts sick of them. The old Penmarric's gone forever. My God, if only Mr. Philip was back.
Coffee, Mom.
Thank you, Madeline. Thank you so much, Mrs. Castallack. Ah, Jan, good morning to you.
Well, Mamma, you wanted a word with me.
In a moment. Simon Peter, let me see the memorandum on the shares, will you?
Shares, yes, of course.
Thank you.
I've just had the circular from old Templeton. Shall you be going up to Oxford for the reunion this year?
Is it likely?
I shall be there. It should be most rewarding.
I don't give a damn.
Thank you, Simon Peter. Now, there are things I wish to discuss with my son.
Yes, of course. In any case, I wanted a word with Madeline. Perhaps, if I might pop back again later.
What an awful counter-jumper.
He took his degree, and a very creditable one it was too, while you were sent down.
Yes, and with typical crassness, insists on jabbering on about Oxford to me of all people.
He's doing something with his life, are you?
Oh, for heaven's sake, let's not start on that one again.
It won't do, Jan Eves. There can't be very many better-natured girls than Felicity. Since you've married her, you've sponged on her and neglected her. Living here while she's at Carnforth. Spending Philip's money and living in Philip's house as if it were your own.
You have got the whole thing out of proportion, Mamma.
Michael is very annoyed about it. I don't think you should stay here any longer.
I am doing no harm. Yes?
Time for a word.
I am in no mood for your little university anecdotes.
Mrs. Castallack seemed out of sorts.
What the devil do you want?
Let's not get at loggerheads, Jan. I only wanted to say that I think you've had a pretty raw deal from Philip.
I'm drinking, are you?
Well, perhaps the tiniest whiskey wouldn't come amiss. God's sake. Thank you so much. Your very good health. No, you see, I believe, as do many others locally, that you are by far and away the best man for the job of running the Penmarric estate.
You do you?
Well, Between ourselves, Jan, Smithson simply isn't up to snuff.
That's what I've been saying for months.
Quite, for months. The pity of it is that Mr. Vincent didn't listen to you earlier.
Didn't listen to me at all.
Precisely. Now, I happen to believe that your physical presence here at Penmarric is exactly what's needed. You're keeping the household staff at it, you're keeping the estate workers in good heart because you're a Castallack. That's what they understand, what they respect. If I were in your shoes, Jan, I'd elect to stay on here. No one's going to evict you by force. Besides, if Philip does decide to settle permanently in Canada, then I think the best solution would be for you to take charge of the estate, at least until Jonas comes of age.
But do you think Philip will settle out there? I mean, has he hinted as much in his letters to Michael?
Well, I think I can read between the lines. He obviously likes it in Canada.
Yes, he does. Isn't this advice of yours rather unethical? Wouldn't Michael disapprove if he ever heard you? I mean, damn it all, he wants me out of here PDQ.
There are no witnesses to this conversation, are there? I like to think I can help a varsity chum when he's up against it. Anyway, Jonas is a tiresome little brat. My fingers itch whenever I see him. And I think that Philip may very well change his mind about the will. You may still be in line for the inheritance, if Jonas continues behaving as he does at present. Well, I must be off. Luncheon appointment. I trust that we can carry on being friends in spite of your problems with Philip and
sure
Mr.
can,
Vincent.
Simon. Can I give you a lift into town?
No, thank you. I have my new motor outside.
Seems to me the least we can do is to make some kind of contact with them.
I don't want to see Rebecca. Do you imagine I don't know exactly why you want to see her again?
Whether we like it or not, Mamma, Jonas is your grandson. And he is heir to Penmarric. For Philip's sake, you should try to get used to the little brat before he comes back.
He seems very happy in Canada at the moment.
Yes, so I gather. What about Helena?
Oh, she's in Rome, flourishing, I think. And she goes to stay with friends in Amalfi's.
Will they ever get together again, do you think? I was only asking.
Jonas! Jonas! Jonas?
I assume he knows we're here.
Yes, of course he does. I expect he's washing his hands. Well, he's been out playing all afternoon. Weather like this, you can't get him in for anything.
But he knew we were coming.
He'll be along directly. More sandwiches.
Oh, thank you, dear.
Is there some lemonade?
Now say good afternoon to your grandmama Castallack and to your Uncle Jan.
There's no lemonade.
This is tea time, Jonas, not lemonade time.
You said I could have lemonade. I don't want tea.
Have you washed your hands? Jonas! Pick that up at once. Pick it up and come and sit down beside me. Oh, Jan, I'm awfully sorry. Jonas, go and fetch a cloth from the sink at once.
Sean, on my tea.
Do as your mother says, Jonas.
You want my mother, are you? So just shut up.
Right.
Leave me alone.
Where are you taking him?
To the kitchen. Did you clean these trousers for me?
I can do that, Jan.
Well, he very well do it himself.
Just leave it to me.
Mummy.
He's such a good boy normally.
Quite enough of that young man. I'll put you down in one minute. You just stay there for 1 moment. You manners. There, you just stay there. Oh, you little.
Let me out.
God, come here, young man. You just jump over there. There, how?
Ow!
Now, oh, you little. There.
Ow! Mummy!
Jonas? Genevieve! Let me in, Genevieve!
It's all right, I'm coming.
Darling, it's all right, darling. It's all right. What have you done to him?
He was behaving like a lout, so I smacked his bottom.
How dare you! How dare you!
He behaved atrociously to Mamma. He needed to be taught his manners.
Don't tell me how to bring up my own child.
That kind of advice is exactly what you need.
You've never liked Jonas. And don't think I don't know why. You're jealous because when they hear of Penmarric...
Fine, we both calm down.
Calmed? I never want to see you again. Never. Do you understand? We're finished.
Finished? Who'll it be next time? Simon Peter? The butcher's boy? So long as someone occupies your bed. Oh. Not in the best of taste, Rebecca. Not entirely ladylike.
Since Smithson was removed, I've had to persuade old Walter Hubert out of retirement to hold the financial fort at Penmarric. Janna, needless to say, is at his elbow the whole time. It worries me.
He's succeeded in alienating just about everybody, hasn't he?
There's no way you can persuade him to go back to Cornwall. You realise Sir Justin is urging Felicity to get a divorce on the grounds of Jan's adultery.
Oh, I've tried to get Adrian to talk some sense into him, you know, but he won't tolerate Janna's promiscuity or the life he's leading at Penmarric.
The trouble is, Philip's so immersed in his Canadian adventuring that he can't or won't take things seriously enough.
Excuse me, Mum,
Thank you, Hetty. Mamma? Michael?
Your mother and I have been discussing your continual interference with estate affairs. And since you seem to think that you can ride roughshod over everything Philip decided before he left, I've had to keep him in close touch with events here.
Ever his obedient tailor and cutter.
Janna.
Well? What? If you and Vincent can't hold things together, I believe I'm amply justified in riding roughshod. But it means that Penmarric doesn't fall apart.
You may both of you be interested to hear Philip's assessment of the situation. He's been far more lenient than I could have wished, but that leniency has been expressed in terms that you may find less than flattering. No, it was addressed to me.
Damn it, all of it affects me and Penmarric!
Behave like this in my house.
I shall omit nothing. I believe you may find it salutary. The usual greetings, then. What the devil of a fuss everyone seems to be making on my behalf. I appreciate your attempts to kick Janna out of Penmarric as he deserves, but please don't worry unduly. My little brother is hardly the man to steal an inheritance if he meets with any form of resistance. And if he wants to behave like an infant, I think we can humour him. He's really very harmless indeed, so let him be. He's not worth bothering about. He's not worth bothering about. Yours, etc., Philip. I'm sorry, Janna, but he had to know.
You're sorry? All my life you've driven a wedge between Philip and me. All my life!
I've heard the letter, yet you still can't see the justification for it. He is behaving foolishly. I can't help wondering how far I've been to blame. When he was young, you know, when he needed me most, I neglected him terribly. I wonder if he'll ever forgive me.
But isn't it perfectly delightful?
Mr. Castallack. Ma'am?
This is my wife, Ira.
Oh, yes, of course. Pleasure to have you here, ma'am.
Good evening.
What's it to be, then? On the house, of course.
Jolly kind of you. Since you allowed me in here at last, I'll have a gin and French, please.
Make it 2 whiskey waters, Ira. And thank you.
So, this is where you and Philip and that unfortunate Travers used to spend your nights.
All the miners, we knew every one of them.
We surely did.
You know, I don't know how Ira manages to rub along, I really don't.
It's good to see you, sir. And you, ma'am.
You're very kind,
on the house, I told you.
It's for the pint of cider.
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry about the gin and French, but it's a little grand for here.
Stupid old Felicity, I should have realised. Anyway, let's hit the nail on the head, shall we, darling? You were always honest with me, even about your little deceits. So, how much do you need?
As much as I can lay my hands on.
I can run to 100 in cash, but no more cheques, I'm afraid, otherwise Daddy will stop my allowance.
You know, I don't know what I'd have done without you.
You're going to have to do without me permanently pretty soon, old soldier. Daddy's absolutely certain I shall have to divorce you.
What an absurd place the world is.
No, sweetest. It's people like us who make it absurd.
What kind of trouble is he in now?
£350 worth of trouble. He's been sweet-talking old Walter Hubert for weeks now, and our money's been transferred from estate funds to Jenny's pocket. I taxed him with it last week. Oh, he said airily, I'll put a cheque in the post. And he did. And it bounced. Janna, it isn't just a misdemeanor. It's a criminal offence. I'm very much afraid I shall have to prosecute.
Is everything to your satisfaction, sir?
Medlin, this is going to be the party that the entire county will talk about for the rest of the season.
Yes, sir. Would you care to try the claret now, sir?
Well, it's been decanted long enough, hasn't it?
As an insurance against possible problems nearer the time. The nose seems perfect to me, sir. One moment. For you, sir, Mr. Simon Peter Roslin.
Fingers crossed, Medlin, he has to cry out tonight. Well now, Simon, don't tell me you're too busy to make it tonight.
I can't talk fully now, but it concerns a certain party overseas. Jan, are you there? You'd better watch out for yourself. He's coming home.
It's all right, it's all right. I'm Mrs. Castallack's son. You'll be Hetty.
You're Mr. Philip. Oh, Mrs. Castallack will be so pleased to see you, sir. She's talked of nothing else since she heard you were on your way home.
in, Etty. What is it, dear? Oh.
Mama.
It's been so long.
Is that the one?
Yes, sir. Your father, sir, put down 24 bottles of this, sir, when my father was in his service. It's been under lock and key for 20 years.
Let's hope it hasn't turned to liquid sugar. You know, whenever I was homesick, which was far more often than either of you'd believe, I'd picture a scene exactly like this. Just the three of us here at Penmarric. Oh, there were times when it scarcely seemed possible.
I'm glad you're back, Philip.
And looking so well, too, isn't he? Oh, both of you are.
And you, Mamma, are quite unbelievable. If I didn't happen to know you better, I'd put you down at the right side of 50.
Will that be all, sir?
No, Madeline, it certainly will not. Ladies, I must ask you to be upstanding. Sit yourself down, Madeline. And to drink. To Penmarric. And to the man who kept her on an even keel. Edward Medlin. Edward Medlin. Your very good health.
I didn't expect.
Well, I thought it wouldn't do any harm if we caught up a bit with each other's lives. Drink?
May I have a cigarette?
Oh, of course. When did you start?
In Italy. A lot of things started in Italy. I met someone.
Do you want to talk about it?
His name's Warwick. Warwick, they call it in America. He's in shipping. He's attractive, frighteningly intellectual, and very gentle. I met him and his wife several times with the Brebners at Amalfi. Warwick was on leave. Then his wife had a severe attack of Italian tummy. She was confined to her suite at the hotel. And Warwick had time on his hands.
And you were available.
So it happened. Several times. The first time, I was far too apprehensive to enjoy the experience. And afterwards, I wondered what all the song and dance had been about. I think you'd like him.
So, where does that leave us?
I'd rather live with you than any other man I know.
Thank you, Jim. It'll only be a few moments, you don't mind waiting.
Mrs. Castallack.
I wish to see my son.
You'd be speaking of Mr. John, ma'am.
You know very well who I mean.
He did leave orders he weren't to be disturbed.
I want to see him now, Ira.
He hasn't been too well lately, ma'am.
Philip wants to see you.
Yes, well, I thought I might go to London.
There's no cause for alarm. He's in a very good mood at present. Not inclined to make you suffer for your stupidity. Besides, I told him that you repaid Michael in full the money you took as soon as he asked you for it. I didn't choose to tell him that your cheque was dishonoured and that I made it good with one of my own.
How kind of you.
I also told him that apart from your lapse with the accounts, you ran Penmarric well, that you were instrumental in getting rid of Smithson, and that you're popular with the tenants and the estate workers. In the event, I've advised him that he could do far worse than retain you to run the estate for him.
How can I possibly go back to Penmarric now that Philip's there?
Don't be childish. I've seen to it that he's prepared to overlook your foolish behaviour. It's up to you now to take advantage of the situation. Now, if you work hard and do all you can to help Philip, I wouldn't be surprised if he changed his mind about Jonas eventually and named you his heir.
It is totally irrelevant whether Philip prefers me to Jonas. He will have sons now.
No, he won't. He told me. You can't have any children. Inheritance will lie between you and Jonas, and I think you should have it. And Penmarric means everything to you, nothing to Jonas. Philip also asked me to persuade you to join us for lunch at the Metropole. Oh, you'd better shave and have a bath. You look like an escaped convict.
Mind if I had a drink?
Well, you must do as you wish, of course.
I'd like a whiskey and water, please. Well, what time is he expected?
Any time now.
Ira's doing pretty badly down at the Tinners, you know. He may well have to sell out if things don't improve.
Oh. Here he is now.
Now then, Jan. Nice to see you again. Oh, is that for me? How thoughtful. Mamma? Now, what's this nonsense about the accounts? Still, I'm sure it's nothing that soap and water won't remove. I don't want luncheon spoiled by some recital of your daft little pranks. Yes, well, shall we go in? I see there's lobster on the menu. I'm starving.
You were driving atrociously, and you know it.
After 2 hours of being humiliated by Philip, how the... I'm sorry. I apologize if I alarmed you. But you can see how things are. Philip will never forgive me, and he will never alter his will in my favor. It would be best if I went away and made a fresh start in London.
How can you win your way back into Philip's good books if you are 300 miles away? Make a fresh start here.
I can't! I have humiliated myself in front of too many people. I can't do it.
You can, and you will. You'll never forgive yourself if you run away. Running away won't help, you know.
Yeah, and what will?
You're always in such a hurry. You never take the time to be yourself. I've seen you now as the dutiful young son, the dashing man about town, the rich young husband, the Master of Penmarric. But how often have I seen you be yourself? Take the time to be yourself.
I'm nearly 30, Mamma, and nothing has ever gone right for me.
Oh, Jan, you have all the time in the world. You any idea how I spent my 20s?
You were in service at Manhattan Castle.
No, I was dismissed from the castle when I was 18. I was destitute. Nobody would give me employment. Eventually, I was obliged... Or I had a series of horrible, degrading jobs. There, I've never told any of my children that before. I know what it's like to feel that life's unjust and unfair. But within 10 years of that, I was Mistress of Penmarric. The same change of fortune could happen to you. I have faith in you, Jan Eves. I don't care how foolishly you've behaved. I could be prouder of you than any of my other children. It was all so easy for the others, wasn't it? It was never easy for you.
Ah. Hello there, Jonas. Ready for bed?
I don't want to go to bed yet.
What small boy ever does want to go to bed when he's told? Still, it's quite late. Past your bedtime, in fact.
What's that?
A game called backgammon, darling.
Can I play?
Not tonight. It's past your bedtime.
It's only 7:30.
Do as you're told, Jonas. Say goodnight to Aunt Helena, then off you pop.
Don't want to say goodnight. I want to play that game.
Do as you are told. Jonas! You have precisely half a minute to pick those pieces up and put them back, young man. Otherwise, it's the spanking of your life. I have to admit it, the child's a pain in the neck. He's rude, ungrateful, and self-willed.
Well, I could understand it the first time he came to stay. Everything's strange. He must sense the different way of life here. But this is the 7th weekend he spent with us since Easter, and he's no better.
Oh, what a difference between him and Desmond.
I agree, totally. But you're landed with Jonas as your heir. So what are you going to do about mending his ways?
He's too full of nervous energy. I shall have to find something to exhaust him. Something to make him deadbeat enough to start being tractable.
Sounds marvellous. But what will it be?
I don't know. 3 months in a chain gang, perhaps.
Good morning. I was looking for Medlin.
Simon. I didn't tell Philip.
Tell him what?
That you actively encouraged me to get my feet under the table at Penmarric.
I beg your pardon, I did no such thing.
You bloody well did. You told me he intended to stay in Canada.
I told you nothing of the kind.
You told me!
You asked me if I thought Philip would decide to settle in Canada. I simply said I could read between the lines, that's all. I never said what it was that I could read. You were the one to place a completely false interpretation on my statement.
You double-dealing little bastard.
The game I played was legal. I outmaneuvered you. And you've only yourself to blame. Anyway, what's the point in our quarrelling now? You're back as bailiff of Penmarric. You have the run of the estate. What more could you want? Things have turned out very well for both of us. I hope we shall continue to be friends as well as neighbours.
Neighbours?
Oh, yes, I've I bought the manor house at Zillan. I wanted something suitable for my bride-to-be.
Well, you always were fast on your feet. Who's the lucky lady?
You didn't read the announcement of our engagement in the Times. I shall be marrying Rosemary Traherne in October. I believe she was at finishing school with your wife.
Jonas! Come on!
I don't want to.
Don't be a poor old chap. We came to the beach to get into the water.
I don't like the sea.
See how shallow it is. It's lovely. I'll be with you all the time. Nothing to be frightened of.
I don't like it here. I want to see my mummy. I want to go home.
Look, Jonas, so long as you're with me, you'll do as I say. All right?
I won't!
Jonas! You have a lot to learn, young man. And lesson 1 begins right now.
I don't like the sea. I want to see my mummy. I want to go home.
Whiskey water, sir?
Oh, I think gin and French, please, madam.
Do you know, I think I shall. What are these? Turkish?
Well, you know what I'm like. Always on the search for the ultimate experience.
Gin and French, sir.
Ah, thank you, madam.
Jonas, is he here?
I thought he was with you down at the beach.
So he was. The little beggar did a bunt while I was out swimming. I saw him racing off up the path, and by the time I was back on the beach and changed, I'd lost him completely. He really is the most
He'll
infuriating...
run home to his mamma. Isn't that what he always does?
No, not on Saturdays. He always spends Saturday nights here.
Look, I shall have to motor over to Deverell, make certain he's all right. Oh, and Jan, I want you to come with me.
So, he's there. He's perfectly all right, apparently. But Rebecca called me a monster, slammed the door in my face, and then locked the bloody thing. Just what the hell is going on?
Let me talk to her. Becca! Becca, it's Jan.
Jan!
What's happened? What's happened? Yes, Jonas is here, isn't he?
He's upstairs.
He's not hurt, is he?
He's hiding. He's terrified.
Of what?
He won't say a word. Philip took him down to the beach. Well, Jonas won't say anything. He was so frightened he ran away. Well, I should never have trusted Philip. Just because he's married doesn't mean... I've read about men like him in the newspaper.
Rebecca, you can't be serious.
Well, what else could have frightened Jonas so much? I should never have trusted Philip. I'll never let him go back to Penmarric again. Now, as for Philip's idea of a boarding school, well, we know all about boys' boarding schools, don't we?
Rebecca, this is nonsense.
I was mad to let him go off alone with Philip. I'm not letting my boy be brought up by a...
By a what? By a what?
Well, did you get any sense out of her? Well, for God's sake, man, tell me. I want to know.
She's trying to convince herself that you sexually assaulted the boy.
What a stupid woman. Stupid, stupid woman.
We need a drink. Let's go to Zillan.
I suppose you believed her. Maybe you even suggested it to her in the first place. My God, I sometimes think you'd do anything to estrange me from Jonas.
If you really believe that I am getting out of here right now and you can do what you like with that delightful air of yours. Of course, I know you didn't harm the child, just as you know quite well I would never dream of ravishing an 8-year-old girl. The idea is preposterous.
How does Rebecca know that I prefer men to women? You must have told her.
For God's sake, Philip!
She was your mistress. What more natural than to enjoy a juicy family scandal?
Because I felt respect, perhaps.
For me?
No, not for you, for Trevose. Yes. I like Trevose. He alone encouraged me when everybody else, including you, considered me a spoilt, incompetent brat, so I did not blab it about.
I'm sorry. Helena guessed, of course. She had far too much pride to do anything but keep the knowledge to herself. Alan and I, we were always discreet. You see, I wanted no gossip to reach Mama.
She doesn't know anything.
And she never will.
Was there no one in Canada to replace Trevose?
No. No, he was unique. I'll never have a better friend than he was to me. I met this widow. It was a relief to start living in a woman's house again. But eventually she wanted an affair.
They always do.
Well, I'm not interested in that sort of thing. The strange thing is that something like that happened with Helena in Italy. Well, she met an American, there was an affair. After it was all over, she wondered what all the fuss had been about. Ironic, isn't it? I think we're happy. We're certainly happier now than we were before.
Yes, I've noticed that.
Well, the separation's helped us to get things into perspective. It's a pity about Jonas. But I've done what I can for him. And it could never work out satisfactorily. So, Jan, if you outlive me, you can have Penmarric. And I wish you joy of the whole damned inheritance.
Well, darling. Here's to us.
And here's to our separate ways. It's really a frightful shame in so many ways, my pet. We've had some jolly nice times together, and I don't regret a moment of it. Just imagine, if you hadn't married me, I'd have been well and truly on the shelf. So, let's be thankful for small mercies, I say. Don't go all conscience-stricken and weepy, there's a good chap, or I shall start howling myself. It's all for the best in the end, isn't it? Things have changed. Radically since Philip made you his heir. I mean, you only had the Cornwall money to live on, and your salary at Penmarric was ludicrous. Now, you'll be a damn sight richer than me one day, and you'll want an heir. A son of your own. Oh, yes. I think if you and I had had a couple of children, we'd have probably stayed together. But as it is...
It's not too late, you know. We don't have to go through with a divorce.
I'm very much afraid, old soldier, it's always been too late for me. About 6 months after we got married, I took myself off to a baby doctor. Of course, I didn't tell you about it because at that time you were particularly thick with Rebecca and didn't notice where the hell I was.
What did he say?
Oh, just that yours truly was never, ever going to need the services of a baby doctor. So, there. And anyway, we didn't really suit one another, did we? And it's much more sensible to be divorced so we can go on being friends.
Right. Well, I'll set it up as quickly as possible then. What's the name of this detective chap that's got to catch me at it?
Oh, you'll love him. He's an absolute darling.
What an unholy mess.
What is?
Everything. You know, when I was in Canada, the rest of the world seemed so far away, one could forget it completely, for months on end. Who the hell cared what was happening on the other side of the Atlantic? When I did think of home, I'd always assumed that things were still gently jogging along. But now we seem dead set on making the same mistakes all over again.
I've lost 3 sons, Philip. I don't want to lose any more.
Oh, for heaven's sake, don't start worrying. The army will probably refuse me anyway. Too old. Past it.
It's not a laughing matter. Well, Janna, you know how impetuous he is. He would want to be first in line if there were fighting to be done. And Esmond will soon be old enough to volunteer.
Nonsense. Esmond's a marquis now. And marquises do not go to war. They sleep in the House of Lords or drink far too much port. I wouldn't mind a bottle of beer myself. How about it?
Oh, you and your beer?
Yes?
Mr. Smith, pleased to meet you. I'm Mrs. Smith.
Mrs. Smith, how very nice.
Yes, well, quite a nice room this, isn't it? I've been in some places. Oh, so you're a gentleman likes the art stuff.
Yes, would you care for a drop?
Well, if it's all the same to you, dear, I wouldn't mind a spot of bubbly myself. Spirits is ruinous on the complexion, I've found. Breaks the veins, dear. So, if it's all the same to you? Oh, I see you brought something to while away the time. Always a good idea if you've got more than an hour to spend in a hotel room.
Do you play chess?
Not quite my style, dear. Little bezique, perhaps?
Bezique? Yes?
You rang, sir?
Oh, yes, indeed. A bottle of champagne, please.
2. Make it 2, dear.
Make it 2. Krug, I think.
Bollinger. 22 for preference, my love.
Very good, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam.
Just a minute, young man. Make it quick. Me and Mr. Smith is thirsty. Start as you mean to go on, my motto.
Mrs. Smith, you are terrific. Where the hell did they find you?
Yes, well, trade secret, isn't it? Oh, by the way, Mr. Smith, what time was you expecting the gent in the case?
What do you mean, the detective?
Don't use that word, sir. Not in here. Anybody overhears you and the law will have you for collusion and my career be ruined.
You are a very nice young lady, Mrs. Smith.
Yes, well, I've had to work with worse than you. Now look, don't you go handing me no hard luck stories about wives that don't understand you, because I've heard that tommy rot 1,000 times before. Bet some poor girl's breaking her heart because you're here. You men are all the same. Oh, would the gentleman in question be a Mr. Drummond?
Why?
I thought so. Hector Drummond. Ulcers is his problem, and he has to feed them regular, so he'll be here sharp at 9. Are you, ready for the naughty photographs? No.
Rebecca? Afternoon.
How are you, Jan?
Oh, fine, thanks. And you?
I hear you're divorced now.
More or less.
Suppose you'll be thinking about remarrying.
It may happen, eventually.
You've no one in mind?
No one. How are the children?
Well, they're both well. Deborah's doing a shorthand typing course in Penzance. She doesn't like it much. Jonas is still doing well at school.
So you're all alone during the day?
Yes, I'm alone.
No lodger just now?
Not at present. Well, I'd better be going.
Let me drive you home. Okay. But why the truce after so many months of hostilities?
I was lonely.
Even with the lodgers?
I was just the landlady renting rooms.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. 2 children in the house make excellent chaperones. And anyway, I wasn't interested in any of them.
Now pull the other one.
Did my best to forget you, but it was no use. When I heard about the divorce, I felt I had to find out if there was some other woman on the scene.
None. There's no one at all.
I tried to tell myself I didn't love you. That business over Jonas and Philip made it easier for me not to see you. But today, when we met, I wanted you so much.
I've always wanted you.
Jonas will be home soon. Jan, we could be married soon, couldn't we? Well, when the absolute's through, you have a good salary from Philip, and we could live here. But you're free now. What's to stop us from marrying?
I think we would quarrel over Jonas.
But why should we? Well, he'd be different if he saw we were happy together. He could always go away to school. He's a good boy, really, Jan. Well, he'd be different if there was a man in the house he could treat as a father.
Well, it's a difficult situation. It needs a lot of thought.
But perhaps we might get married quite soon.
Darling, I have only just got one marriage behind me. Before I get married a second time, I've got to make sure it doesn't go wrong again. Just give it a little time, huh?
Morning. Philip. You know my nephew, Esmond. Mr. and Mrs. Trewint, the Marquis of Lochleigh.
How do you do?
Oh, I remember you, my lord, when you were no more than 7 or 8. You had a kite, you know, and that got caught up against a great elm. Mr. Philip had to climb close on 50 feet to bring it down for you.
Yes, of course I remember that kite. And Uncle Philip tanned me because I was playing in out-of-bounds territory.
Tanned you? Did I really?
Yes, you did.
They're riding out again. It's good for Philip. He hates inactivity.
He's not been saying he's bored, has he?
They're not bored, exactly. But he can't disguise the fact he's rather restless. Oh, Philip's really made enormous efforts to come to terms with a way of life that can never fulfill him as Senengarth did. I've sometimes thought Senengarth wasn't so much a passion or even an obsession, but a disease. That's why these visits of Esmond are so valuable. They have an awful lot in common.
I think you manage quite extraordinarily well.
Oh, Philip and I are going to have a holiday. A proper holiday for the first time ever. We've booked a suite on the Queen Mary and we're going to sail for New York next month.
Oh, that's no more than you deserve.
Ding dong. What an extraordinary name for a mine.
There's a lot of argument locally as to how the name came about. Most people reckon it was because it was always such a ding-dong battle to make the mine pay any dividends at all.
An unlikely story.
Well, there you are. If you can come up with a better notion, I'll be glad to hear it. Shall I go further?
Sure. How deep?
Well, we'll only go to the next level. Beyond that, it's blocked off. Hold this. All right, I'll go first. Don't you climb aboard until you hear me holler. All right?
All right.
It's a bit dusty down here, but the air's fresh enough. All right, you can start climbing now. All right?
Fine, thank you.
Good. Just take it steadily.
Coming! For God's sake!
Jan!
Is it Mama?
Esmond?
Yes, Mama? What? 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 Esmond? Esmond, what happened? Esmond?
We were at Ting Top.
You and Philip?
This has always been such a safe little shaft. And so we didn't bother to rope up. The ladder was rotten and came away from the wall. He fell. He fell. I ran off to get some rope and tried to get down to him. And there was nothing I could do. There was nothing I could do.
Who's going to tell Mama?
I can't, Jenny.
Of course you can't. And no one would expect you to.
It's been dreadful for you, and I can't.
If it had been anyone else, then I would feel it was my duty to break the news. But with Janna... Surely you must realize that, Jan. I'm not her son, you are. I'm the only one she has now. No, you're not going to leave it to Esmond, are you? She's an old lady, Jan. And as such, she's far more used to the idea of death than people of, well, our age. She's been through all kinds of hell in her time and come through on the other side. And she'll get through this too. But you must tell her.
Mama?
In the kitchen, my love. Zetti's half day.
Hello, Mama.
Just in time for a cup of tea. Would you like something stronger? What's the matter?
I think you should sit down.
It's Philip, isn't it? I suppose it was in a mine. It's been a miracle he's lived so long, really. I've sometimes thought it would have been better if he died at Sun and Garth with Trevose.
You knew.
Do you think I was blind? I didn't notice he was never away from that surly little miner.
What matters is that Philip was happy with him, Mama.
Yes, he was. That's all that mattered. I think I will have a brandy now, my love. Just yes, behind
Mama.
you.
Yes.
Fine.
I know it is.
I never said anything to him about Trevose. It would have been wrong to interfere, wouldn't it? If only he'd loved Eleanor a little. I was wrong about her. She was always too reserved, poor girl. He needed someone. There was a day, you know, I heard Philip talking in here.
I thought it was Eleanor. I found him with that awful, repulsive little man. He was just looking. I tried so hard not to mind. You do understand, Janna, don't you? I only wanted him to be happy.
Yes, Mama, I understand.
Then what went wrong? Where did I go wrong?
This latest will was, of course, drawn up by Philip without my knowledge. But it's perfectly legal, in every respect. Why did he change his mind about cutting out young Jonas and naming you? Did you know?
Yes, I know.
I see. This is going to come as a great blow to Rebecca. She still believes Jonas to be Philip's heir.
The wretched child forfeited his right a long time ago as a hooligan and a liar.
I've always found Jonas quite an agreeable boy.
I've no doubt you have. In any case, it doesn't matter a damn. Look, never once did I try and persuade Philip to alter his original will in my favor.
I don't need any such assurances. No power on God's earth could dictate any serious course of action to Philip. We all know that.
Yes. But what you don't know is that Philip and I had stopped bickering. I've always wanted Penmarric, but not like this. Not with Philip dead at 41.
Genevieve, I do believe you're beginning to grow up.
Don't patronize me. It's more than time you retired from the affairs of Penmarric.
You're absolutely right. It is.
I'm going over to Roslyn to see your mother, Jan.
Thank you. She'll appreciate a visit. Helena? Helena? Okay. As far as I'm concerned, you may stay here as long as you wish.
It's very kind of you. After the funeral, I think I shall go abroad for a while.
You know, Europe's not the most comfortable place at the moment.
I wasn't thinking of Europe. I have friends in San Francisco. I loved him, you know. Long time I loved him.
Born of woman, for a short time to live, and is full of misery. He cometh up and is cut down like a flower. He fleeteth as it were a shadow, never continueth in one stay. In the midst of life we are in death. Of whom may we seek the succour but of thee, O Lord? Who for our sins art just.
What a turn up for the books.
Yet, O Lord God most holy, O Lord most mighty, O holy
I've spent so much of my life hating you and envying you. Because I thought you were everything I wanted to be.
Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The sure and certain hope of resurrection to eternal life. Through our Lord Jesus Christ, who shall change our vile body, that it may be like unto his glorious body, according to the mighty working, whereby he is able to subdue all things to himself.
Without Trevose and Senangars, you're nothing.
You
cheated my son.
Don't be a fool, Rebecca.
All through these weeks when we've been so close, you've deceived me. You got round Philip and you tricked Jonas out of his inheritance.
It was you! That day on the beach when Philip spanked the boy for his absurd behaviour. It was you who lost him Penmarric.
After what Philip did to Jonas
What did he do? What? He spanked the boy for behaving like a lout and nothing more. It was you who rejected Philip after all the generosity he'd shown.
Generosity? He violated my child!
Don't you ever say that again!
Get out of here. I never want to see you again.
I wouldn't come here if you went on your knees and begged me. There are plenty of other women who'll give me what you used to. Younger women. Penmarric.
Johnny?
Yes?
It's me, John.
Rebecca. Did you get my letters?
I've written to you twice.
I got them.
Well, then why didn't you write back?
I said everything I have to say at Deverell, so did you.
I made a mistake then. Please believe me when I say I'm sorry. You can come here whenever you like.
It's too late now. I'm sorry.
I remember what it was like the last time. People wanting to go to war. They seemed to think it would be some kind of adventure. It wasn't like that at all. Millions of them went out and never came back. And one of them was Marcus. And now because of this Hitler, it's going to start all over again.
Mama. If you were Prime Minister, I think Hitler would shut up shop and take a one-way ticket to the North Pole. Wouldn't he, Hetty?
That's right, Mr. Johnny, wouldn't all? Well, I'm glad you can joke about it when you're looking so tired.
I am tired, though. Why?
You need a nice holiday.
They say Harrogate's very nice, Mum, though I haven't been there myself. Long way off it is from Cornwall.
Oh, I think I shall probably just get out and drive somewhere. But if I do end up in Harrogate, Hetty, I shall send you a postcard.
Sir?
Yes. I'll have the pea soup, please.
Rolls and butter?
Absolutely. And, wine, please.
You'd be safer with the beer.
Oh, would I now? Then a pint of whatever you choose to bring. And, the steak pie to follow.
You're engaged?
Yes. I'm getting married in August.
Ah, then I shan't be coming here again.
Oh, I shall still be here. My fiancé has the market garden down the lane. I expect I'll be in here quite often to help my parents out when they're busy.
It's not a good idea to live too near your parents when you're married, you know. You would do far better to marry a complete stranger and move right away from the area.
Oh, really? Do you speak from experience?
As a matter of fact, yes, I do. My own marriage ended in divorce.
You mean your wife left you because you lived too near to your parents?
Isabel, dear, don't chatter to the guests. The gentleman wants to enjoy his port wine and coffee in peace. I do apologise, sir.
My dear Mrs.
Clay.
Mrs. Clay, there is no need to apologise. Your daughter is quite charming.
Yes, well, the gentleman in the corner is requiring his bill, dear. If you'll excuse her. I do hope everything's been to your satisfaction, sir.
Everything Mrs. Clay has given me the deepest satisfaction.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I felt that Mummy cut our conversation rather short.
There are a number of points I'd like to pursue. I now know a lot about you. What about this fiancé of yours?
Keith? He's very sweet.
How old?
23.
And you adore him?
He's steady and placid and reliable.
I think you're bored with your life at home. And you think that marriage will give you the escape route you need. But that's no foundation for life together. Don't marry unless it's for love. I married for money and a roof over my head. It was a fiasco. Lost the money, lost the roof over my head, and I hurt a very decent girl into the bargain. So don't you dare rush into marriage with this market gardener of yours, unless you can't live without him. And if you can't live without him, then what the devil are you doing here with me?
Because you're different from any other man I've ever known.
Now that's a basis for a marriage. Of course, you must understand, I am by no means sweet, placid, steady and reliable. But I can at least promise you, you won't be bored. You will marry me.
Of course. The question is when?
She sounds a most designing woman.
She's just an innocent young girl.
Well, if she's not, she's certainly pulled the wool over your eyes. You having an affair with her?
Mama, really?
Then I presume you're anxious to have an affair with her, and she is clever enough to refuse.
You couldn't be more wrong. I want her to be my wife.
So you haven't asked her to be your mistress? Fancy. I wonder what she would say if you did.
I can't help feeling this conversation is just a little improper.
Well, it strikes me that Isabella's not a very reliable girl. You may very well want to marry her for all the right reasons, while she may be marrying you for all the wrong ones. You're very eligible.
When we first met...
She didn't know who you were, yes. She saw the cut of your suit, didn't she? She heard your voice when you spoke. And what happened? She breaks her engagement. A girl like that should be regarded with extreme suspicion. If she's done it once, she can do it again.
Mama, we love each other.
Is that a magic spell to ward off all evil? I don't suppose I shall like her. Marry the girl.
You liked her? You really liked her?
It's a pity she's not a bit older, of course. That can't be old. She's far too attractive, if you must know.
Then I could hardly expect you to marry anyone plain. At least she's no fool. Go on with you.
Have you been?
Quite well, thank you.
That's good.
I heard about your engagement.
Oh, yes?
I'm very glad for you. I would have written, but...
It's quite all right.
I hope you'll be very happy.
Thank you.
I don't think I can meet your fiancée. Perhaps you could explain to her.
I told her all about us. She'll understand.
Well, I must be going. A bus. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Rebecca. You said you had never been with a man before.
I'm sorry, Jan. I only lied to you because I was frightened you might leave me if you knew. I was rather naughty once and I didn't want you to know about it. Please don't be cross.
Now let's get this straight once and for all. I don't want you lying to me about anything at all. I shan't be angry that you aren't a virgin, it's immaterial, but I don't want you lying. Try to be honest with you. I've told you about Rebecca and Felicity and all the others that didn't mean a damn, and in return, I expect you to be honest with me. I shan't be angry just so long as I know.
Yes, Jan.
Well, how did it happen anyway? It was with Keith, presumably.
Well, actually, it wasn't with Keith.
I see. Well, it was just a mistake, just the once, an accident, huh? Is that right? Now, look, darling, I'm only just repeating what you've just said. You said you were rather naughty once. Well, was that a lie as well?
Sort of.
Or did you have an affair with someone?
Not exactly.
You're not making much sense.
They were just boys from the local school near ours. 3 of them. I went out with one, then the next, then the third.
I see.
And then there was Keith.
But you just said that you never had an affair with Keith.
I didn't mean to. I got muddled. I mean, we were talking about the first time it happened.
Oh, so you had a regular affair with Keith?
No, it wasn't like that at all. We just had some occasional lapses.
Occasional lapses? You would do rather well as a defense counsel in divorce actions.
Please, Jan.
Well, are there any other occasional lapses I should know about?
No, just the boys and Keith, that's all.
You're sure that's it? That's the law.
Yes, Jan, darling, honestly. I swear.
All right. Well, we've both had our little flings. But we're married.
And from now on, we keep our noses clean. Both of us. Understood?
You're so good to me, Jan.
This morning, the British ambassador in Berlin handed the German government a final note stating that unless we heard from them by 11 o'clock, that they were prepared at once to withdraw their troops from Poland, a state of war would exist between us. I have to tell you now that no such undertaking has been received, and that consequently this country is at war with Germany. Now may God bless you all, and may he defend the right. For it is evil things that we shall be fighting against: brute force, bad faith, injustice, oppression, and persecution. And against them I am certain that the right will prevail.
Well, God save the King.
God save all of us.
Sir, should worst come to worst, sir, we have 6 shotguns, 2 sporting rifles, and an elderly pistol in the house.
So long as you're here, Medlin, I think we can rely on the safety of Penmarric.
Thanks, Ira.
Thank you, sir.
There we are, Esmond.
So, we're all decided then. The only question is how to break the news.
Who's that for? That's for absent friends.
You know, in the last show, it was all very simple for me. Life was pretty awful at home. Enlistment seemed a marvellous way out. So I just went off one morning to the nearest recruiting office. My father didn't even know where I'd gone until he got a letter from me in France. It's all very different for you, Dan. You've got commitments.
You know, the two of you are really going to have to be more careful. I could see that light nearly half a mile away.
But this blackout doesn't seem so stupid, Mr. Jan. Why would the Germans want to drop bombs here?
Can't have one law for Cornwall and another for the rest of the country. Thank you, Hetty. Do you think you could make us a pot of tea? Tea?
Oh, yes, yes, go on. Thank you, dear.
How are the two of you going to manage when I'm not always able to come round and check on things?
Oh, what do you mean? Jeeves?
I'm joining the Air Force next week.
I've never heard such nonsense in all my life.
This weekend, Esmond is attending an Air Ministry selection board, and if a boy of 18 can go ahead, what do you think I feel about it? Okay. You may as well hear the rest. Adrian intends to enlist as an army chaplain.
You can't expect me to take any more, not at my age.
I just want you to understand that we have to go.
Oh, I understand that very well.
Don't you think it's all worth fighting for? Everything that means the most to me? You,
Don't
Isabella...
you realise that's why I want to keep you here? After a lifetime of wrangling, Things are finally straightened out.
Yes, Penmarric has finally become a home, not just an inheritance. Isn't that worth fighting for?
You aren't here any longer. I can tell. You're with Esmond and your squadron in Canada. Just a lot of stupid boys playing at war games.
You're probably right. I know I'm leaving the stickiest and most responsible job to you. Looking after Penmarric and Mamma while I'm away.
More than that. And a child. A child to look after.
Let's not go over this again. If anything should happen to me while I'm away, I want to know that you'll have no memories and no encumbrances. You'll still be young. And I want you to be free to live your own life.
Why do you talk like that? You won't make a will and yet you talk like that.
If I were to make a will, in some strange, superstitious way, I believe I were trying to rid myself of Penmarric. And that is something I do not intend to do. Better get back to the house. The others will be waiting.
Like safe.
Thank you. You're the pilot now. I'll be back.
I hope I'll be alive to see it. Off you go.
'Till we next meet.
Oh, Jan.
Right then.
And don't worry about the ladies, sir.